to a Bergkamp Wonderland World Cup special. I'll be your semi-host today. John, with joining us today will be Kris.
Hola.
Jason.
Hello, boys.
And all the way from Australia, Dom.
How are we, guys?
Hello, lads. How are we today?
All good.
Very, very good.
Nice to have
All right, well,
Jason's
let's just dive right in. Semifinals, World Cup. First game up, Germany versus Brazil. Kris.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Wow. Wow. Don't think anyone saw that coming, did they? I certainly didn't.
Whoa.
Well, all right, sorry. Jace saw it coming because Jace knows everything, obviously. But
I thought 3-0. I thought 3.
And in fairness, I think Danny said on the last pod, didn't he, that he expected it to be like 4-0 or 5-0 something. So he did call a big score, but it was like watching amateurs. It was just so. It almost felt like after 20 minutes and they were 4 up or something ridiculous. It was just like they could score at will, and it just totally blew me away.
Well, you had Homo say that at halftime that they decided to go easy on the Brazilians.
Yeah. And that speaks volumes. That just speaks absolute volumes, and it's just the way they cut through them at will. I mean, they could have had. I mean, Mesut missed that late chance. They had a couple of other chances first half. They could have put 10 past them. I don't know if there's ever.
I mean, I think the stats kind of prove that out. They had almost all their shots were in the first half. They besides the couple goals that they scored in the second half, they were really on cruise control, weren't they? Jason, what did you think about the match?
I thought their play of the tournament so far underperformed. The referee gave up. His teammates had given up. They didn't have any help off the ref, and they were shit, weren't they? David Luiz is going on like sideshow Bob. Ooh, look at me, I'm going to captain us to glory. All that bollocks of holding Neymar's shirt up at the beginning. The fuckers got what they deserved, and I'm so happy about it. Fuck off, Brazil.
Don't hold back, Jason.
I wish you'd get off the fence.
I know. I got to be honest, I've toned that down to what I actually think. They were awful. David Luiz has got no discipline at the back. Having him and Dante as a centre halves, well, it's nearly as bad as having, who's that twat from Barcelona, Alves and Maicon. And who's the other lads? Marcelo. He's a joke. He's another sideshow Bob in waiting. They were awful. They were absolutely awful. They were nearly as bad as Fred up front. He was playing statues.
I mean, with a country with so much attacking talent, you have Fred and Joe as your strikers.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And Wilf was on the reserve list.
Dom, what'd you make of the game?
I think everyone assumed that the Neymar being out was going to be the big deal for Brazil, but you just saw, with the defensive display that I think it was Thiago Silva, even though he might not have had the best of World Cups, he was still pretty solid, but he just holds that defence together so well, and without him in the side, they just went to shit, didn't they? Just absolute shambles at the back there. Just looking at some stats here on shots, Germany had 14 shots and scored 7 goals, so they're scoring at a 50% efficiency, which is typically German, isn't it? And I think that stat there sort of shows you exactly how the game went, that every time they sort of grafted something forward, it was just like a machine going forward, pass, move. They just knew every sort of step where a player was going to be, and it just, even where Thomas Muller muffed one, it went straight to Toni Kroos, who was making a run, and he ended up smashing that one on his left foot. I think that was at 4-0. So
what did we make about our lads, Ozil?
He's superb again, wasn't he?
But he still created a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, you look at the way they played. They were very patient in the build-up. They looked for that pass. They looked for the guy who was in space, who had the best shot available. They were very Arsenal-esque in the way they did things. And it's closer getting the record World Cup goals. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. Kris, do you think the pundits have kind of run out of steam as far as the criticism for Ozil?
They'll never run out of steam as long as the Daily Mail have got ink in their printing machines. What a bunch of cunts. I mean, those sort of people. Did you see what they printed last night? Fucking hilarious. Something about... in fact, no, I'm not even going to give them the airtime. Fuck them. But no, there's there'll always be people that criticise. I think people don't realise the level of ability that a player like Mesut has, for example. I mean, it's just he doesn't always have to be at the end of the assist to create the assist. And we've all sort of talked about second assist, third assist. It's the influence and the way that they play with him on one side and Muller on the other. I mean, much like a couple of the boys have said. I mean, you only have to look at the stats. Klose 23, Kroos 24, Kroos 26, Khedira 29. 4 goals in 7 minutes. I mean, that's properly mental. And the media.
I was looking around to see if my missus was playing FIFA, and I just wasn't paying attention.
It was like that. It really was like that. And I think, as far as media criticism go, I mean, I think the headline something the next day was something along the lines of, from the aforementioned twats, something like Ozil poor again as Germany rout Brazil or something like that. And it's just like. It's just blatantly ridiculous journalism when they're trying to pick out a negative in amongst this positive. And if you talk to anyone that knows anything about German football or has a brain, people like Ralf Honigstein, for example, that they appreciate how good Ozil is and what he brings to the side. So it's only really lazy journalism over here. And probably a bit of bitterness as well, because the English media are never keen to give the Germans any credit.
Yeah, but Kris, the bottom line is Mesut Ozil's about to play in a World Cup final.
Yeah, exactly.
And those cunts are writing their venomous nonsense,
exactly.
Sitting there wanking to porn at the same time.
Let them talk. Let them talk. They can say what they want.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Dom, I was going to ask you real quick, since we have Germany up now. Khedira, he had that injury coming back in the CL final. And kind of getting back to match fitness in the pre-World Cup. He's looked better and better as each game has gone on. What do you make of his contribution thus far?
Well, I haven't. I watched the Champions League final all the way through because I was paying a bit of an interest to see how he was moving with his from his ACL surgery, and I don't think that he's had any problems recovering from it. To be honest, I think the reason that he's been maybe the first early on in the World Cup a little bit less than flattering was probably just ring rust. I think just not playing that kind of level and that competitively for very long. Anyone's going to struggle after being out for most of a season. So as far as his lateral movement and things went, he seemed to be quite confident and seems to be running around out there okay. But I think he's definitely gotten better as the tournament's gone on.
Yeah, he's one of the names that we're linked to. What did you guys think, Jason, Kris?
Khedira, I mean, he's one of the three. I know we were going to touch briefly on the DM sort of position, and he's one of the 3 names that have been linked. I sort of think that. I mean, I'm torn really. I think any player that you're signing from a club like Real Madrid, for example, who's thought of that highly, is going to improve a side. It just all depends on what sort of player we're after. We said pre-pod he might slow the play down a little bit because he's not the paciest of players. And obviously he's not Premier League ready, so he would need that sort of transition to Premier League football. But any player of that much ability coming from a club of that stature is going to improve his side. And I wonder if the fans would be more, appreciative or more sort of speculative about the name of Khedira over a sort of a Schneiderlin who maybe would be less fanfare around him or less glamour about the name. But at the end of the day, Khedira is a German international, so if he was the one that we went for, particularly if the rumours are true about us being able to get him on the cheap, it's a bit of a no-brainer, really, to bring him in. I mean, I wouldn't mind us doing both, really, but yeah, I suppose it just depends how he would settle in and what sort of style we played around him.
Jason, what did you think more about not Khedira as a player, but the way he links up with Ozil?
He's a fantastic footballer, isn't he? He's a very intelligent footballer. I don't think he's what we need, because I think we need a DM. Myself and Dom spoke about this on the WhatsApp group earlier on. If he comes, fantastic. You look at him, he was integral to everything Germany did the other night. He links up play so beautifully. We've got midfielders like that. I want a big, nasty fucker, a defensive midfielder, But again, you can't turn your nose up at him, can you? He's a quality player. Again, he's about to play in a World Cup final and hopefully win it. And, he'd be a great addition to the squad if he came. Just think we need a slightly different sort of player to solidify our defence.
Okay. Well, let's move on then. The second semifinal. Germany versus Argentina. Jesus, what a fucking... I think I went to sleep like 4 times during the match.
It was a bit painful to watch, wasn't it?
Stop watching. Other than the messy wank fest that the media come out with all the time, it was dog shit football.
Dumb. Just to kind of give a different angle to this semifinal, because there really wasn't much to talk about besides the penalties. What do you make about this this forgiveness for Messi all the time for the pretty much a pedestrian showing?
On paper, you look at that side, and I think it's the most impressive team at the World Cup on paper. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It just, for one reason or another, whether it's the manager not being able to set the team right, or the players all thinking that it has to go through Messi, or it's got me baffled. I think if you look at some of the decent World Cup sides over the last few World Cups with Spain and things like that, you've got a core group of players that all play at the same club. And then you sort of fill it up with people from around the place. So Germany, for instance, have got a lot of their team that are made up from Bayern Munich players. You scatter in a couple of Dortmund players, a few Arsenal boys, and there's your squad. Spain, in recent years, have had a lot of their players at Barcelona or Madrid. And then, again, you sort of scatter in a couple of from around the place. So I think that's maybe what Argentina don't have, is they don't have a core group of players all playing at the same club. So it's almost like, yes, they're individually very talented, similar to Brazil, but they don't have that sort of team unity and that team sort of ethos where they're working together. It's almost a little bit like just expecting that he's going to do everything. And it makes it pretty easy for defenders when you know everything's going to go through Messi, a little bit similar to how Portugal were with their tactics and setup.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody's kind of, passing side to side, then passing the ball to Messi and expecting him to do something. Much like you said. Jason, what do you think? What must be the pressure on Messi to kind of bail them out time after time? Because, I mean, Argentina's been lackluster this whole tournament.
They've been awful, but I think Messi may be the problem. They've got some world-class players in that team, but it seems to be that Messi's not happy with this and Messi's not happy with that. And again, he's acting like a spoilt cunt the way he does it at Barcelona. It's all about him. Well, no, it's not. It's about the Argentinian football team. Now, I don't give a fuck about Argentina. Doesn't bother me whatever they do. But let's be honest, the little prick, he's a horrible little shit. It'd be better off they dropped him and, went with the other guys. Because it's just too much about him. It is. And he's
a wonderful player, but do you think he has too much influence on the team?
Yeah, he is a wonderful player, but he also looks a bit like a spoiled brat. They did nothing the other night, and I really hope Germany smash them. I really do, because it's too much about Messi and not enough about the team. And you need 11 players to win a game. He didn't save the penalties; the goalkeeper did. Do you know what I mean? I just don't get all this, the Messi wank fest, the media. Wonderful football player, but he bores the tits off me.
Kris, let me ask you a question. All this, you read it a lot on Twitter the other night after the match, that Messi's finally in the final, Messi deserves it, this will confirm that he's the greatest of all time, this and that and the other. From, Arsenal supporters that we have 3 players, possibly 4, on the German team. What do you make of that?
In respect of the reports of what sort of pro-Messi, you mean, or...
As far as, this thing, deserving, I think you don't deserve anything. I think you earn it or you don't, but it's kind of, in football these days, this wording has popped up, deserved, we have people that are cheering for him just because they think that, that he deserves to be there, but they haven't really shown that they deserve much in this World Cup.
No, I mean, like you said, nobody really deserves anything. I mean, it's very easy to say, oh, these players deserve this. Like you said, that's not how it works. It's kind of weird, really, because the 2 teams you've got in the final, arguably, although both impressive teams, and they really are, if you take out the Germany performance against Brazil, you could arguably say there's two sides that haven't really, massively impressed that are in a final. Like if it had been a Colombia-Chile final, you'd have gone, wow, the two standout teams in the final and whatnot. But arguably all of the semi-finalists, you could say, were probably the least impressive of what could have been in there. But as far as deserving it, nobody really deserves it. And I think, as you rightly said, a lot of Arsenal fans would probably be more keen on the Germans winning it than the Argentines. To touch on Messi, if he wins the World Cup, or if they do win the World Cup, he probably will be complete as far as what he's won goes. And I personally do think he's still the best player in the world, regardless of what sort of a personality he is. But has he had a standout World Cup? Not really. But then I suppose it's difficult because you only get however many games. What is it? 7 games? 3 in the group stage. 6 games.
Yep.
So it's quite hard to leave a real mark. Whereas if you look at what he's done for sort of Barcelona over the years, it's often been over a season or over 2 or 3 months spell. So it's quite difficult to leave your mark other than getting a couple of goals like James Rodriguez and like Thomas Müller have. So for example, has Messi been any more impressive than Thomas Müller? I wouldn't suggest so. In fact, I'd say less so.
Okay, well, let's talk about that final. Dom, what do you expect to see?
Who knows? It's been pretty unpredictable so far. I thought that Brazil would put up more of a fight against Germany, and we all saw how that happened, worked out. But I think that you've just got a similar situation to the Brazil game. You've got a team of individuals in Argentina versus, Germany have still got some fantastic individuals, but they seem to be more of a stereotypically German, don't they? They're just a team that they're like a machine when they get going. They seem to have the ability to pass the ball around or break quickly if they need to break quickly. I think they're just a lot more together than most of the other teams at the World Cup so far, and especially with Argentina. So, I mean, if you were a betting man, you'd be putting your money towards Germany, surely.
Jason, what are you expecting to see in that final?
I'm expecting to see Argentina really get behind the ball. They're not going to allow Germany to dominate them the way they dominated Brazil. See Mascherano having a big game. He's going to be covering their defence there. And who are they going to leave up top? Who knows? But I see Germany just being the better team, outpassing them, and grounding them down. To be honest, that's what I see happening. Who knows what will happen? But I can just
if they sit back like they did against the Netherlands, I just can't see them having much joy going forward.
I think the German midfield, we've got a couple of guys who can let rip with a blockbuster. Cruz can score a goal. Yeah, everybody can score a goal there. And that's the difference. I think Holland relied too much on Van Prijk and Robin. I can't see Argentina being expansive, but I can just see Germany going about their business the way they have the whole tournament. To me, they've been the best team in the tournament by a mile, because they play as a team, and Lahm at right back really solidifies them again as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask Kris. Germany seems like they've kind of cleaned everything up with their defense and their midfield when they moved Lahm to right back. Do you think that injury to Mustafi, was it?
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of was a blessing in disguise for them?
Probably was, really. Yeah, probably was, because I think Dom might have said it on the last pod. I think, well, when you've got the best right back in the world, you play him at right back. You don't think, well, we're away at United today, let's stick Szczesny up front. I mean, it's just silly. I can understand why they did it, because obviously it's worked for Bayern Munich, but the reason it's worked for Bayern Munich is it's a different league, it's club football, it's different opposition, not a strong opposition, and I think, like as you said, Lahm is the best right back in the world, bar none, and that has helped them because it's freed up that position in front for a more experienced midfielder to play a midfield role.
Sorry to cut in, Kris, but Schweinsteiger coming back to fitness has got something to do with that as well,
absolutely.
Hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they almost needed to carry him through the group stages until they knew he was 100% fit. Rather than risking him, almost like Argentina did with Aguero, where they sort of thrown him in and it didn't pay off because he wasn't ready. His muscular strain was clearly not not ready to thrust into that level of action. So the Germans have played it well almost, and who'd have thought, Germans being efficient, but they really have managed it perfectly, if that's what they've done. And maybe they just thought, well, we can get away with it for a couple of games, let's get through to the quarters or semis, and then if Schwein's fit, bring him back in.
Well, before we touch on the injury situation, they did a report here in Spain on the Germany squad. They got to Brazil, I think, a week earlier than everybody else did. Mm-hmm. And you know what they did? They built a compound from scratch.
Yep.
In a small village, and they acclimated themselves to kind of their surroundings. And I think you've noticed that they've been really the one European team that hasn't been affected by the elements and the atmosphere. Because they've acclimated themselves. I thought that was really an ingenious way to prepare. Dom, you wanted to touch on Di Maria's injury real quick, but what about Agüero's as well?
I was going to say, Agüero's got a groin strain, and he's been struggling with that throughout the whole competition. And for me, this is a good example of a player that hasn't been able to rehab an injury and get back and play any kind of, stringy type of games together. So if you go back to when we played them in the league against City and he did his calf, then he came back and he did his hamstring, and then he came back and he did something else. I think it was a knee or something. And now he's at the World Cup and he's struggling with a groin strain. So it's a good little sort of, indication of how difficult it is to actually get over some injuries sometimes. So if he's still struggling with a groin strain, which he obviously has for the whole World Cup, it's a risk putting him in. I mean, absolutely. There's nothing suggesting that he won't go out there after 5 minutes, have to be substituted, which is why I think it's a similar situation with Di Maria. I don't think that Di Maria will play. I don't think he'll be right. If he does play, he's definitely playing, massive 50-50 risk again. So you're going to go into a game with two players that could potentially not make it through the first half and have to be substituted. I'm not too sure that they're going to risk that. So for me, I think, at best, Di Maria might make the bench. And then with Agüero, who knows?
We saw that the other night with Agüero, didn't we? When he came on, he was less than stellar.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to start. But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they just think, oh, look, let's just put a jab in there, put some cortisone in there so it numbs it a little bit. It's the World Cup final. How many times are we going to be back here again? I can see players risking going out there a little bit underdone. And, I mean, make no mistake, every single one of the players that'll be out there will have some kind of knock, niggle, strain, some going on somewhere. Like, no one's ever 100% fit at that level, and especially after a long World Cup like that. But there's just going to be bigger risks than others. And Di Maria and Agüero are definitely two pretty big risks, but they're also wild cards for Argentina. I think they're both capable of making something out of nothing, and I think they're going to be pretty keen to try to get them out there, but I'm just not so sure that they're going to be able to.
So, Dom, with the extra day's rest, how much of an effect do you think that has on, from a professional point of view?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, look, anyone that has played that level will tell you that even just an extra 24 hours can be the difference sometimes between getting up and playing and not. So, like I said, I think Agüero's got more of a chance of playing a full game than what Di Maria has at this stage. So, I mean, if you were the manager, you'd be tearing your hair out at the moment, wouldn't you?
Well,
just trying to figure out. Do you risk it? Do you not risk it? If you don't and you get done.
Yeah, Sabella, the other night when he substituted Higuain for with Kuhn, who was the person that suggested that switch was Messi. They had him on a recording here in Spain. He went over for water, and he told the manager to take Higuain out and put in Kun Agüero. So that kind of gives you a kind of an insight of who's in charge on that team. Predictions. Kris, let's start with you. What do you think the final's going to turn out like?
1-1 decided in extra time. I'll say Germany.
Okay, Jason?
3-1 the Germans.
And Dom?
2-1 the Germans.
I'm going for 4-1 for the Germans. I just don't think that back line for Argentina is going to be able hold on like they, like they have been against lesser teams. Okay, well, let's move on to Arsenal news that we all want to chat about. Absolutely. Arsenal signed Alexis Sanchez, 4-year deal, £31.8 million. There's talk of some add-ons, but it's not going to be much more than that. What can we say? Jason, go for it.
I just want to say to all those people who've had a pop at Wenger over the years, okay, it's fairly fucking obvious what the club have been dishing out is right. Yep. We've now got the money. We're now spending it. We've just bought a world-class player. I just want to give a shout-out to Jeff Arsenal, who's taken stick from all areas. And Jeff, you were fucking right. You were right. This is so exciting, guys. Exciting times at the Emirates now. It seems as if there's nobody we can't have a go at. I know we have financial restrictions, but, we've really sent out a message to the Premier League. We're serious contenders, and we've just bought a truly world-class player who's got the pace we need. He's got the intent we need, to have a go at goal, etc. I'm so bloody excited. And by the way, all you Liverpool fans, go fuck yourselves.
and a shout out to a certain someone out there that knew mid-June that this was happening, and we've all kind of been sitting on our hands for the last month. Kris, Alexis.
Yeah, there's a brilliant sort of stat not stat, but phrase that came out earlier on that said in the last 2 years Arsenal signed Real Madrid's number 10 and Barcelona's number 9. And I think that just speaks volumes and it also says the market that we're now competing in. Much like Jay said there, I echo every word. The amount of people that have given us sort of Wenger knows best people some shit. I'll freely admit there was times when I wondered and thought, has he gone as far as he can go? But for the record, I've never once been at the Emirates or away from home, stood in that crowd and shouted for him to get out. And I think anyone that did that can now just hang their heads in fucking shame and realise that this club has been in a transitional phase for a good 10 years as far as money goes. And I think Arsene knew that he could deliver a trophy last year without breaking the bank. The thing that people forget to realise is how do we know that Wenger didn't get the idea that Sanchez could be available after this World Cup? How do we know that the Suarez deal that's just gone through to Barcelona was not in the works last year? And it was clear that they would have to let Sanchez go if they brought Suarez in. How do we not know that Wenger knew that this could be happening? And if that's the case, everybody is an expert, especially on Twitter these days. Everyone seems to know, or Wenger's this, he's got no idea, he's clueless. Well, just wait. Just wait. As I said at the last pod, if we'd have got to August 31st and we'd have not brought in anyone, I'd have been the first one to say, what are we doing? Where's the ambition? But when you make a signing of this stature, it not only sort of promotes the club in a good light, but it also shows the players just what we're looking to do and what we're looking to add.
Sorry to cut in, but you look at the excitement now. I've got no problem with people questioning the club and holding the club to account. I think we've been lucky enough to deal with Gav, who's who truly holds the club to account because he loves the club.
Yep.
The guy loves the club as much as anything on this planet, and he holds the club to account. There's nothing wrong with that. But the pathetic, nasty, vicious bile that's come out against certain people at the club, there's no place for that.
No.
Let's have a bit of dignity when we look at these things. And to all those people who've been nasty and vicious, suck my cock.
Jesus.
He's absolutely right.
Dom,
right.
Yeah, I mean, not in those uncertain terms, but yeah. Dom, Alexis, 17 goals, 12 assists last year. Second in both at Barcelona when really just playing a supporting role. 31.8 million pounds. How ingenious is this signing by Wenger?
Well, I think there's a lot of bumholes out there that are fizzing with excitement at the moment. It is brilliant business, absolutely. When you compare it to some of the other transfers that have gone through from other clubs, Herrera at Man United, unproven player in the Premier, really not at the highest level for £30 million. You got Luke Shaw of £32 million, Lallana £26 million, and we've got, one of the best wingers in the world from one of the best clubs in the world over the last few years, where he's developed his game for £30 million. So, I mean, the price that we've got him for is fantastic, and he still had a couple of years left on his contract there as well, so it's not like he was running his contract down. What's more to say that you guys haven't really said, other than one other thing that I'll touch on as far as the Arsene Wenger stuff goes. Both Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez have made it pretty clear in interviews that Arsene Wenger is probably the main reason that they've ended up at Arsenal. So all the people out there that want to blame Arsene for not getting world-class players in, he's the reason that they're there.
Did any?
He spoke to Ozil in German, and that's how he convinced him. He spoke to Alexis in Spanish, and that's how he convinced him. So if there's no Arsene Wenger, there's no Ozil, there's no Sanchez.
Absolutely.
Hey,
exactly.
to be fair, lads, I was talking to Wenger the other day, and he was talking to me in Welsh. The man can do anything.
I think.
My next question for you guys is as far as Sanchez is concerned. What do you think this does for the club, just in general? You go pitch another player, and you tell him, well, you have Ramsey, you have Sanchez, you have Ozil to play with. How huge is that? As because we're competing with people that can pay any amount of money as far as a wage. But what is a sporting ambition to certain players out there? Even Alexis turned down money to go to Arsenal. So. How huge is that? Now we have the manager that we have, but now we have the talent to pitch to other world-class players.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, John, I think, when you look at Ozil and when you look at Sanchez signing, they're coming to the Arsenal to become better players, to improve their game, and to really have a go with a great club. Okay, any monkey can sign for big money at City or United at the moment. 30 million quid for Shaw? Jesus Christ. I'm missing something somewhere, because an 18-year-old, an unproven 18-year-old, 30 million quid, it may be a stroke of genius and they keep him for 15 years or whatever. Who knows? But, we're getting a proven player who wants to come to work with the manager and to work with the players we've got, combined with the excitement of the Puma launch, etc. This is sending out a message to players who genuinely want to become better footballers and win trophies. Come to Arsenal. We've got a settled squad. We've got a guy who knows what he's doing, and we've got real ambition. And that's a great credit to the club, Wenger, and the players who stuck with the club.
And Kris, I wanted to ask you expectations. Where do you see Alexis playing?
Well, this is the exciting thing, because there's quite a lot of talk about that we're still in for. I don't know. Did any of you guys see the video that I think it was Mo posted last night of the brief interview with Gazidis at the Puma launch?
No.
They were going to keep on spending.
Yeah, basically he said he didn't give a lot away, but he said obviously it was a massive signing, etc. And he said there's more business to do, and there's plenty. Or his exact quote was, "There's plenty more to do." So. I think that's the exciting thing. If you bring in, arguably Alexis could well compete now with the likes of sort of Poldi and Santi Cazorla, and I think when you put a player of that much quality into a squad that's already got depth, it just creates that drive for the players to keep performing at their optimum level, because their positions are not safe, and that can only be a good thing. And I think when we're still being linked with a striker, i.e. like a Remy. Alexis is not going to be an out-and-out centre-forward, we know that. So if we can strengthen that striker area as well, people pre-summer were saying, we just need a striker. If you can actually add a quote-unquote winger or attacking forward as Alexis and a striker, how are they going to feel then? And I think it's just touching on your last point that you said there, this is a statement signing as much as anything else, and you only have to sort of look at the players' reactions to a player of this sort of level coming in, and the quotes that have gone around. It really is a statement, and like you say, it will promote other players to look at us and go, hang on, there's something big happening there.
And Dom, I wanted to ask you, Alexis coming in, people that are kind of bitter that we signed him are saying that he's injury prone. What did you have to say about that?
Oh, look. The injury-prone tag came, I think, when he first moved to Barcelona. He did a hamstring, and to be fair, at the time, it was a reasonably solid hamstring tear that kept him out for a little while. And then when he came back from that in the same season, it was later on in the season, much later on, he had a abductor muscle problem, which is an unrelated issue, and that only kept him out for a few games. And then, other than that, he had a similar injury to what Oxlade-Chamberlain had, the knee. And so he had a sort of medial strain in his knee. He only missed a handful of games for that. And other than that, there's been nothing. So he's had 3 injuries in his professional career. 2 of them came in the first season that he was at Barca, which is probably where people get this idea that he's injury prone. But none of his injuries are repeat injuries. He's not suffered repeat soft tissue injuries, which are the ones that you get a little bit concerned about. Like I said, with Aguero, one soft tissue injury after another. So as far as the injury I'm looking at his injury record thinking it's better than good. It's actually quite amazing. So I'm pretty excited. I think he's going to be hopefully pretty durable player that we're going to get a lot of games out of.
Now, Kris and Jason both touched on some fees for, Shaw and Lallana, and that's kind of, a running theme that they're all going to Liverpool. Is Liverpool the new scum? Look at last year and look at the vast amount of money that they're spending this year.
Sorry, boys. Liverpool have always been scum.
You know what scum I'm referring to, though.
Phil, did you see the Phil Thompson quote where he said today? I posted a little reaction to my review on it, but no, he said that there was 2 quotes that leapt out of the interview that he gave to Sky Sports, which I thought was hilarious. The first one, which I made the little comedy video of, was where he said Alexis Sanchez has chosen to join Arsenal, and his quote was, for whatever reason, and just for the record, he doesn't know what he's missing not joining Liverpool. I fucking roared with laughter when I saw that. And the other quote he gave was, the reporter asked him, well, would you like to see one marquee signing come in, or would you like to sort of see several players like they've been doing come in to replace Suarez? And he said, well, we've all seen what Tottenham did last year, so so I think we can learn from that. So it's just kind of ironic that that's what you said, and the idea that some of their players they're looking to replace. Let's make no bones about this, and I do hate Liverpool, but they had a squad last year that relied heavily upon 2 players. And the same, people said, oh, well, Mesut Ozil, they're a one-man team, Giroud, they're a one-man team. Well, if you take Suarez's contribution out of that Liverpool side, are you seriously telling me that Daniel Sturridge will still be the striker he was last year? That the players they've got like Sterling, is he still going to be the sort of same player? They're going to have to rebuild the whole forward line. You look
at how great those guys were for England.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly it. Suarez, everything that they did was built around Suarez and Gerrard. And I've always thought Gerrard's overrated anyway. But one thing he did have was an understanding with Suarez.
He's a little bit slippy.
Yeah. If they bring in Boney, they're going to have to change the whole way they play because it's not. Yeah. It doesn't accommodate the style he has. So I won't say anything more because I can't be bothered on Liverpool, but. I just thought Thompson's quotes were just hilarious this morning, and this is the same guy that said, a week ago, I've spoken to Brendan Rodgers and he tells me Alexis is done. What a fucking idiot.
Dom, I was going to ask you, Talk Sport, Adrian Durham. He came out and said that with this signing and the ones that are supposedly happening, we might win the title. What a fucking turnaround that has been, no?
Gary Lineker as well.
Yeah, Dom, what are your thoughts on all these pundits that have continuously hammered us, but now are kind of seeing the light as many supporters have?
I still think they're going to find something to have a pop at us about. I think it's just easier to sell papers and to be that shock journo than it is to say, truthful things, to do your research and to see that Mesut Ozil's created more chances in the Premier League than anybody else last season for his club. It's easier just to say that he's not interested or he's lazy, or if you think that he's lazy, look at how much he runs. He's always in the top 3 distance covered in the games that he plays. So I think, look, I don't pay any attention to it just because I know their motivation behind their actions, and it's just to get a reaction and to sell papers and get clicks. And, you know, if one of us says, oh, did you hear what that idiot said? And we say no, then I go look it up. Then they've done that. They've done their job, haven't they? So I still think next season they'll probably still find something to have a pop at us for. You know, oh, they've overspent on somebody, or why have they still got that player? Or, you know, as soon as we don't do so well for a couple of weeks, they'll jump straight back onto the bashing bandwagon. But it's a little bit hard to ignore us now. I think even Arsenal fans were a little bit surprised at the calibre of player that we brought in last season with Ozil, and probably with good reason. You know, we've never really bought like that before. And then going out and like you said, you know, getting Barcelona's number 9, it's a little bit sort of strange territory for us. And I think maybe even the media pundits are probably just as surprised as we are, and they're probably thinking, well, you know, it's a little bit hard to ignore. We don't want to have too much egg on our face, because if they do turn around and romp the league next year, I don't want to be, you know, left here saying how terrible they've been and then have to be proved wrong. So they might be sort of thinking to themselves, well, it might be a bit easier to jump on the wagon early, just in case something happens, and they can go, oh, see, we told you so. Yeah, about time. See what happens when you spend money, like I said all along. So it's just pretty predictable behaviour, really.
Good point, yeah.
Well, you know, we've funded basically 2 of the top Premier League players in the last 2 years to go. Funded 2 complete and utter waste of money spending sprees. And we've gotten Ozil and Sanchez on a return. It's been, you know, I think that, you know, that says it all. Well, you know, moving on from this subject, Lee Dixon yesterday also confirmed that Debuchy was, you know, close to signing. I don't know if that's the right back you lot preferred. I'm a bit disappointed, not in the player, but in what could have been, because I thought we could have got a more physical attacking player. But I mean, EPL proven. Kris, Debuchy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was speaking to a close friend of mine last night who's a Newcastle fan, and I just wanted to get his thoughts on this. And he goes to, well, pretty much every home game, and he follows them quite a distance away from home as well. Based in Plymouth, that's quite an achievement. Excuse me. But he was saying to me that he thinks Debuchy is a really fantastic player, and that we just haven't seen the best of him because he's been playing in a pretty poor Newcastle defence. And when you look at that includes sort of the likes of Stephen Taylor and Yanga and Biwa. So when you've got players, and also he hasn't really had a particularly good player in front of him a lot of the time. And I think it's one of those sort of signings that when we signed Bakary Sagna, A, nobody had ever heard of him, and B, when you slot them into a side, they become a better player. And I think that's probably what we'll get with Debuchy. His heading stats are impeccable, which I was surprised about when I read that, because I didn't realise he was quite as good in the air as he is. And I think when you look at how many goal kicks in particular we aimed at Sagna last year, that could be quite a key point in Wenger's thinking, because he obviously likes a player who can head the ball well. And his attacking ratio, there's a reason why he gets in ahead of Sagna in the French national side. So he's no mug, and once again, you know, I'm willing to trust the manager's judgment on this. I know there's a disappointment that we've not got Aurier, and I know that's the one that everybody was pretty keen on getting. I can only assume it's an age thing, and that Wenger either has really high hopes for either Jenkinson or Bellerin, or indeed another unnamed target, because, you know, let's not forget it's early July. We've got a long time yet. He may well end up bringing another one in. Who knows? But I'm coming around to the idea. I wasn't blown away when I heard the news, but at the end of the day, we need a right back. I think we need an experienced right back, and we're probably going to get both.
Jason, thoughts?
I think he fits the bill perfectly. I got to be honest with you. All this Aurier business, okay, he's a good player, but again, we lose him for 2 months in the African Cup of Nations. Yep. I don't want that. What's the point?
That's a great point.
You know, he's a young lad. He'll be a great player, no doubt. But we got Debuchy, we've got Jenkinson. Hopefully Jenkinson can improve. If he doesn't, well, we got Bellerin coming through. There's talk of the lad from Atletico coming in as well. You know, these are exciting times. I think Debuchy's pacey. He's a good player. His stats are very good. He's keeping Sagna out of the French team without even breaking sweat. You know, that tells you everything you need to know. And Deschamps knows a defender. You know, so happy days. Let's rock. Let's get him in. Let's look forward.
Dom, thoughts on Debussy?
I'll probably reserve judgment for later in the season, but at the moment I think it makes the most sense when you really stop and break down what we've got, what we need, who's going to fit the bill, and available people out there in the market, I suppose, too. The reason that I didn't think we were going to get Aurier is because of his age and his experience level. I always thought we were going to get someone that was a little bit older. I just didn't know who. And, you look at Debussy, he's 28, he's Premier League proven. He's been in the league for a couple of years. One thing I will say about his stats is they're probably a little bit skewed because of the fact that he plays for Newcastle. So he's going to have to lay more tackles, which means he's going to give away more fouls. Yeah. So there was a little bit of concern because his fouling was nearly double of what Sanya's was. So, I mean, that doesn't necessarily come from bad tackling either. That can come from your midfielders leaving you high and dry and you're having to give away those tactical fouls on counter-attacks and things too. So hopefully, like you guys have said, he's able to slot into our system and have better players around him with more cover around him. And this is why I think that defensive midfield position to me is so important, because if you have attacking fullbacks where Gibbs and Debussy are, you definitely need a defensive midfielder that's got the pace to be able to get back and cover.
Yeah.
And so if we get that defensive midfielder that can do that, I'm absolutely fine with Debussy being there.
Well, that's a perfect segue.
Sorry, guys. Do you mind if I just make a point as well? Debussy likes to put his foot in as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All this talk of defenders giving away fouls, well, that's what defenders do. Sometimes you've got to. Somebody who's not scared to stick his foot in and have a pop at people, that's what we want.
And also,
sorry.
And I'll just chime in very briefly on that as well. When he played for Lille, the side that he joined Newcastle from, a lot of their attacks went down the right-hand side purely because he was the overlapping fullback. He's one of those sort of fullbacks. He's very much in the mould of Kieran Gibbs, in that he doesn't necessarily just whip in a sort of a high cross to the back post in the vague hope someone's on the end of it. He's more of a right back that will drive at the byline, get to the byline and cut it back. He's more one of those types of players, and Kieran Gibbs is often like that. So I'm wondering if, particularly with the arrival of Sanchez, whether we're going to look to maybe use our fullbacks more of a byline type sort of attacker rather than a player who's going to swing a cross in, as we tried with Sanya, and that obviously failed last year.
Hey, at least he knows when he crosses, he doesn't hit the first man.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, that's why I think we're better served with getting our fullbacks to the byline and cutting the ball back, because we've got more technical sort of finishers than we have for a player, crossing it in. We've only really got Giroud who's going to attack it in the air.
Yeah, so, but look at the pace we're going to have through that side. Sanchez, Walcott,
yeah. Gibbs,
Debussy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Ramsey's no slouch either, is he?
He's just God, isn't he, as well?
Naturally.
Well, as I was saying before, Dom, made a good point about the defensive midfielder position, and that's a perfect segue. Let's say that we have Debussy in the bag, along with Sanchez, obviously already confirmed. Are we looking for a defensive midfielder to be the next signing? And there's three names that have popped up and kind of been linked with us all summer, with Bender, Schneiderlin, Kadira. Dom, preference?
I'm going to be a little bit controversial and say either Bender or Schneiderlin. Not because I don't think Kadira is a good player, but like me and Jay spoke about, I just think that he lacks that pace. He lacks that little bit of athleticism to get back and cover those fullbacks, and he does like to get forward a little bit more. So I don't want a situation where you're left high and dry on counter attacks because your defensive minded midfielders wandered forward because he's used to being able to do that. I think in the Premier League you get stung a little bit more than maybe in Spain. He's got such a good team in Madrid that he's got a lot of players around him to cover, and he probably doesn't have the quality as well that he's playing against. So for me, either Bender or Schneiderlin, they're so similar as far as their athletic abilities go. I have watched a bit of both of them, probably more so Schneiderlin. So they're basically similar in height. They're a similar, that wiry build. They're quite fast. So for me, either one of those two. I mean, look, like we said, any three and I'd be really over the moon. But for me, probably Bender then Schneiderlin.
Okay, Jason, preference?
I'd totally go with what Dom said. We spoke earlier on. I think Bender, he's got international experience, top level German football. He knows his way about Champions League as well. He'd be my first choice. Schneiderlin, you've got to respect the fact he's come up from old Division 3, whatever it is now, Division 1 or whatever it is, through the ranks with Southampton. So he's a grafter. He works hard. He's a decent player. Khedira, I don't see him being that defensive holding midfielder we need. But you know what? One of three would be perfect. But Bender, Schneiderlin and Khedira would be my choice. That's it, really. I do like a nasty one, though.
Kris, what are your thoughts on the three?
I'm with the other two guys, to be honest. Bender is the guy for me that I would take. There's a couple of reasons, really. Like Jay said, he's experienced. He's a German international. Two things I really like about him. One, we've scouted him for nearly 3 years now, so there's obviously, I think all avenues have been covered by now. And the other thing I like is he can play in the back four if needs be. And although maybe the two could do that, we don't know to what level. Whereas he has done it and done it quite successfully. And I also think that Bundesliga probably it's a quicker transition from Bundesliga to Premier League football than the Spanish league is at times. Just my opinion. Schneiderlin would be the second choice. But to be honest, if we get any of those three, I don't think anyone's really going to complain too much because it's a position we need to cover. So whoever we get, I'd be happy, really.
Let me play devil's advocate real quick with these three. Bender just signed an extension, so he's going to be high 20s, low 30s as far as fees concerned, and I'm sure that he's going to want a good wage to move from Germany. Schneiderlin is probably going to be in the 17 million range, 18 million range. Khedira is on the last year of his contract, so he's going to be around 16 to 18 million. What's to say that we're not in for a Schneiderlin Khedira? What would you think about that? Adding a quality like Khedira that's more box to box, and then backing it up with a defensive midfielder, more defensive minded to Schneiderlin.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? I mean, look, we're strengthening the squad. Okay, the guys have got plans. As Gazidis has said, we're out to spend more money. Whoever we bring in, as long as we can make them better players and they can fit into this squad and they can add some quality and really give us a drive to go for the Premier League next season, it's happy days, isn't it? Let's go out, let's spend the money. This club and these fans have suffered long enough, okay, through having a move during the worst financial crisis, since the 30s. We've built a brand new stadium. We've suffered the hard times. Let's reap the rewards of our hard work. Let's buy these players. If we can afford them, let's bring them in. If Arsene Wenger thinks he can make them better players and they add value to our squad, let's rock. Let's go out there and let's do it. It's exciting times at the Emirates. It's fantastic.
Dom, quick question as far as the bodies that we currently have, with these incoming players. Everybody in the past has always complained about, us not having enough depth, not enough quality. We're adding both now. Who do you think is going to be missing out this upcoming season?
Well, if we were to go and get a Schneiderlin, Bender, Khedira player, you would think that they're going to slot straight into the first 11. There's not really much point buying someone to be second fiddle. So you would think that Arteta would then be the number 2 choice, which would push Flamini, Diaby down to 3 and 4. So you have a look there. I mean, I know that it's, people will laugh, but if Diaby gets 20 games next season through all competitions and not 20 games because he's in and out with injury, but 20 games because that's just how they happen to manage him for the season, which is what I think they should and probably will do. I don't know that we need to. I think that there's enough depth there. Flamini played quite well when he came on. The manager probably didn't trust him as much as he trusted with Arteta, but like I said, you get a Schneiderlin or a Bender come in with Arteta second choice, and you've still got Flamini and Diaby in the tank. There's a fair bit of depth there. And when you're talking central midfield, you've got Ramsey and Jack Wilshere and even Oxlade-Chamberlain that can play through there. So there's a fair bit of depth there as well. And then you've got your attacking midfield. We've all forgotten about how good Rosicky is when he plays. So you've still got Cazorla, Ozil and Rosicky that can play in the attacking midfield role. So there is a lot of depth in that midfield area.
Okay, speaking about depth, that kind of brings us up to our next subject. Jace, what do you see coming in after a right back defensive midfielder?
Well, a goalkeeper has to come in, doesn't he? You should be able to pick up a decent goalkeeper as a backup fairly cheaply. So as long as we get one good quality, happy days. I wouldn't mind another centre half, a young one. If we're going to keep Vermaelen, and I hope we keep Vermaelen, I'd rather see Vermaelen going free next season than us cashing in this season and lack that proper cover. But those are the two areas I think we need to do. But I've got a sneaking suspicion we're going to get another striker. I really do. I've got no information about it. I know nothing, but I've got a sneaking feeling. We are going to. We could see another 3 players coming in, as well as Debussy.
And Kris, what are your thoughts about not only what we need, but this has been a pretty early summer for us. So what do you expect?
Yeah, it has been early. I mean, I'm not. It's not get. It's not get carried away. It's a bit too difficult. But when I say don't get carried away, I don't mean that to be negative. But we have got to remember that it's one player who's come in so far, and obviously if Debussy comes in, that's 2, and that's great. We have to remember that we lost arguably 2 players, 1 first team and 1 squad player in Sagna and Bentner. So we really only replaced Sagna with Debussy, and then we've added with the Sanchez deal. So
sorry, we got Campbell coming back as well.
Well, yeah, that's true. If indeed that does happen, I mean, there's a lot of talk that if we bring in another sort of attacking player, that he might be the one that's let go. And I hope that doesn't happen, because I would like to see him at least get the sort of the Gnabry role, for example, and give him that opportunity to integrate. But I think a few of us said, I think I said to Dom, agreed with me at the start of the season, I could only really see 3 coming in. I'm starting to change that view. I do think that the business seemingly is being done. I think there's a reason why Arsene Wenger was happy to go and play football on the beach in Brazil and be quite calm and collected about it, because it looks to me like the guys behind the scenes are doing more of the work, i.e. the sort of the Dick Laws and the Ivan Gazidis. So I think realistically we're probably looking at maybe 3 more. I think Jace is right. Goalkeeper, the right back, and maybe one other. So the DM, maybe padding the squad out with a couple of younger unknown players that might come in and be part of the sort of the backup as well. But I would imagine 3 more max would be what we would get.
Okay, well let's do some listener questions. I asked on the pod account for some questions, so let's take the first one. Ben at Beardy Blue, BeardyBlue. His question is, think Alexis can spell Giroud up top, or does Theo get a shot up front with Cazorla, Poldi, also Alexis in the front 3? Dom, what do you think?
I think Alexis will be the head of the 3 before Theo will. I think he's a bit stronger. I think he's probably a little bit harder to knock off the ball, a little bit better with his hold-up play than what Theo would be. I still think Theo's best position's out wide cutting in, especially when Ozil's going to be feeding him like a little African child. It's just going to be ridiculous. But yeah, I think I can see what Sanchez does is he just opens up so many different options. You look at last season with our forward line, it picked itself, didn't it? I mean, you had Giroud up top. He was clearly our best centre forward, and then we had Ozil, Podolski or Cazorla on one side, and God knows who on the right because everyone was injured. So it was very predictable. What Sanchez allows us to do is have a front 3 of Sanchez, Walcott, Podolski, Sanchez, Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Giroud, Sanchez, Walcott, Giroud, Podolski. There's so many different options just from adding that one player that has that little bit of versatility.
Okay, the next question is going to be from Naib at KOSCIELINHO. Where's Sanchez's main position going to be? Similar to the other one, but more direct. Jason.
I think he's going to play him on the left. I think. I I can see Wenger changing the shape of the team this season because the personnel are changing. I can see him playing up front. I can see Walcott and Sanchez changing sides. I can see something different happening this season at the Emirates. I've got to be honest with you. I think, with different personnel comes a different mindset. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. We're going to not change the total ethos, but, we can mix and match. It's going to be a long season. I can see him covering a number of positions, but I think initially he'll start on the left.
Okay. Our next question is from Aris at LBOSSCIELNY. Could this be remembered as the best summer transfer window Arsenal have had in recent years, given that we signed others? Kris?
Potentially, yes. Again, long way to go yet, month and a half. So, yes, the short answer is potentially it could be. Particularly if we get everything we need. I suppose nowadays the pressure is always on to spend money. I'll still sort of remember the days of Bergkamp and Platt in the summer, but that was a long time ago now. So, yeah, if we get the players that we're looking at, and if we start with what could potentially be, then yeah, absolutely.
Okay, our next question is from Vivek. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. It's going to be at VIVEK AFC VIVEK. Does the signing of Alexis vindicate Wenger refusing Fabregas? Abso-fucking-lutely. Listen, you know why I wanted to take this question. I saw a tweet last night, and I think it was from one Waleed. Everybody knows Waleed. He said, and Gary Prince as well, as a conversation, that Cesc is the one that actually planted the seed in Alexis's ear about Arsenal. He's always talking about Arsenal when he was at Barcelona. So there was talk that he's the one that recommended Alexis to kind of look at us as an option. And one of the lads said, well, it's kind of like, a little kid sitting at the window when he's punished, looking at his friends play outside. Mm-hmm. And,
right.
I think it's a little bit of that situation that, Fabregas thought he was on his way back and he was going to bring Alexis with him or something to that effect. And Wenger kind of shunned him, knowing, probably a very emotional decision to say no, knowing that we could have this kind of summer and address the needs. So, yeah, I think, this vindicates Wenger's decision. I also think it shows you that there's, loyalty in football is kind of gone.
But let's get something straight, okay? Karma's a bitch. Cesc got what he deserved.
No, absolutely. I mean, that was my point. That loyalty is kind of gone now.
Yeah, John, you're being too nice about it. You're being too nice about it. Fuck Cesc. He deserves to be with that bus driving cunt, okay, at the bridge. I hope he has a Nata-style experience there. It serves his own right for being on that bus and put on that Barca top years ago. The cunt can rot in hell.
Just to counterbalance that briefly, I kind of agree, and I kind of disagree to both extents. Him going to Chelsea sucks, and it does. I think the only way that we had him back, and the reason that clause was instated, was because Arsene Wenger had faith in Aaron Ramsey. And I think if that faith hadn't have paid off, and if things hadn't have developed as they did last season, I think he would be back at the club now. But I think with what Wenger has said and what his belief in Ramsey and the ability that boy has, I think that's the reason why we didn't take up that option, and that's the only reason why.
Maybe, but who cares? Fuck Cesc.
True.
Okay. Our next question is from Alex at AlexWB. Great signing today, but who do we need realistically to win the title? I know it's an over-asked question, but who is number one? Dominic.
I'll go Lars Bender.
Bender. Okay. Jason.
I'd like to say Javi Martinez, but I can't see us getting him, so I'd agree with Dom and Bender.
Okay. And Kris?
Yeah, full house. Yeah, right back and defensive midfielder. So the name's irrelevant, but they are the two we'll need, I think.
Okay, and so we'll go on to our last question for everybody from at PRANY94. If we end up signing a Remy, would it spell the end of Podolski? By extension, if the Manquillo thing works, is this Arsene Wenger 2.0? Anybody? Chris?
No, sorry.
Go on, Dom.
I don't think it spells the end of Podolski at all. I think it probably means that Joel Campbell and Yaya Sanogo will both go out on loan. If not, maybe there's reports of Joel Campbell being sold. Even I think it would. I don't see Remy as a wide player at all, and Podolski definitely works best out there on the left, and he is a great finisher, and he's a good impact player. And to be honest, if you've got a team that's up and about, you can afford to play. I mean, Podolski just about scores or assists every time he steps out in an Arsenal shirt. It's just what he does in between that's just probably lacking a little bit. So no, I don't think so at all. I think if we get another forward, it would probably be more, like I said, those younger guys waiting in the wings might get pushed back down the chain a little bit.
I agree with that. By the way, I think that's spot on. I think weirdly, I think if Campbell gets a chance or comes back with a chance, I actually think he'll be used through the middle. I think that's the reason Wenger's been watching him for Costa Rica. I think that's the position he sees him, and it's kind of funny how much can change in a week. A week ago, everyone was begging Campbell to come back, and he was the one, and he should even start. And a day later, we get Alexis, and no one gives a fuck about him. So it's kind of funny how opinion changes. But I'd like to see Campbell get the chance. It sounds really harsh, but if you know that your reserves, if you get an injury crisis and you know that the two reserve strikers you've got are Sanogo and Joel Campbell, one of which has just played at a World Cup, that speaks volumes when previously you were looking at Bentner, Park, or even further down the line, Chuba and the lad who I've completely forgotten his name, who went to Bolton on loan. But yeah, when you know you've got Campbell to call on if you need him, I think that speaks volumes.
Okay, yeah. Jason?
I got to be honest, I can see the way we play changing a bit this season. I can see Podolski playing a full part in it. We've just got more tools in the box. With the personnel that we have at the club now, okay, one may go. I don't think Podolski will go. I got to be honest there. I just think our options change, and people will be used in different ways. What Wenger's got planned, who knows? The mad git has got something up his sleeve, I'm sure of it.
Okay, well, that's it for the questions. We appreciate everybody that wrote to the Twitter account and put those questions up. Let's move on to shout-outs. Kris.
I'll do mine last because I've got a shout out to lots of people, so I'll let you guys have a go first.
Okay, Jace.
Right. First one is Ray Fox, at Ray G Fox. He had his 17th wedding anniversary on the weekend of the Cup final, and so that must have been a cracking time for him. He's a really good lad. He's one of our American gunners, and he's a top man. The other one is to Jeff Arsenal for keeping the faith on FK, because, they've kept faith in Wenger when everybody's been slating them. And the other one is to at She-War, our friend Gav, because he holds the club to account, and he does it because he loves the club. And all those guys deserve a shout-out, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Dom?
I'll give my shout-out to our American friend that was on the pod with us just the other day, Thomas, who is at TMunt3. He's a great lad, so give him a follow, and he's really good to have a chat with and discuss all things Arsenal.
Okay, my shout out is to at JV_Gooner, Venezuelan Gooner. So he always interacts with all of us, and good lad. So go give him a follow. He's great to talk to. Man. Yeah, he's great to talk to. So Kris.
Yeah, I've got one personal and one I'll just remember that I wanted to mention in the pod. I'll just give a very random shout to a certain manufacturer of our kits. Puma's enthusiasm and sort of seemingly willingness to really jump on board and really kind of take us as their club and embrace the fact that they seem delighted. It's just really nice to see a sponsor be so enthusiastic about a new deal with someone. So big ups to them, and their leisure range is rather nice as well. But the personal shout I had was gonna grovel a little bit if possible. For those of you that don't know, this podcast and all its kind members in it have adopted my Sunday League side for next season, and have been very kind in doing so. And as part of that, I've set up a small donate page on our website to help support our club. We've for those that didn't hear the pod a couple of times or a couple of weeks ago, myself and Danny had a chat about how much it costs to run and maintain a grassroots football side. We tried without any luck getting a sort of a local sponsor, so we decided to have a chat in the pod and see if there's anything we could do. And we're looking to sort of raise some funds. So the ABW logo will be on our shirts next season for our team down here in Plymouth. And as I say, we're trying to raise some cash. So what I've done to sweeten the deal is I've said that anyone that donates any level of contribution of £1 or more to our club will go into a draw. And I'll be buying an Arsenal shirt for the winner of that draw. So basically an official shirt. I'll be buying one, and one of the people that donates from the random draw will be given that as a prize.
Like a raffle.
Exactly, like a raffle. So apologies for sort of begging, but it's all to a worthy cause. And the website, if you do wish to make a contribution, as I say, as little as £1 is absolutely fine. It all helps, and I really appreciate anything. And we are at www.barbicanpiratesfc.com, and there's a link on the top bar which says to donate, and you just follow the PayPal steps.
And that link will be on the pod when we post it.
Yes, yeah, I'm retweeting it. We do have a Twitter account as well, which is at Barbie Pirates FC. So anyone that wants to give us a follow, feel free. I'm running that account as well, so either myself personally or that account we can interact. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be giving updates throughout the season on the regular ABW pods, and I'm working on getting some pictures and whatnot done as well, so people can follow our progress if they wish. So thank you all in advance, and that's me begging over.
Well, I appreciate you lads coming on and bearing with the late start today.
Pleasure.
Fuck's sakes. We had another late celebration that got out of hand.
Venezuelan Cinderella.
Dom, I appreciate you staying up so late there in Australia.
No problems, guys. Anytime.
All right. Well, we appreciate you listening. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland World Cup special.
Oh, boys, before we go.
Fuck's sake, Chase.
Before we go, Luis Suarez moving to Barcelona.
Oh, dear.
And on that note, we appreciate you for joining us. This has been a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.